When I was 18, I went to an art exhibit, this video installation by the artist Bill Viola called Ocean Without a Shore. You sit in the center of a room with these big vertical screens all around you, and they're kind of crackling and staticky. And eventually, a person starts to emerge in the distance very slowly. They come into focus and come through this waterfall where you can see them more clearly. And when they come through the waterfall, it's like they're looking out at you, but they can't quite see you. There's this sort of eerie longing that you feel where you want to be like, I'm here. Notice me. It's okay. But they don't. And then they slowly walk back through the waterfall into the static and disappear. Viola describes this piece as a series of encounters at the intersection between life and death. And you can feel that when you're sitting in there watching these people try and cross that threshold on a loop. It starts to feel like you're the one in the static trying to reach out, not the other way around. Like you want to connect, but you just can't. There's something intangible in the way. I was there for class, and I remember all of us just not wanting to leave. All of the art school freshmen were having a real moment at Ocean Without a Shore. At the time, I hadn't had many moments like this before, where I wasn't just looking at something in a gallery or a museum and liking it. I was experiencing it. And though I was in art school because I loved art, that was more because I loved doing it. I didn't really care about the person on the receiving end, but this exhibit made me start to think about the other side of the equation. How do you close that loop and get your idea across to the person on the other side? How do you get someone to want to spend time with something? What kind of choices can you make about your process or your materials or what you say or what you don't say? Or what context you put your work in? What prompts that mystical little moment where an artist and a viewer kind of find each other and connect on the same plane? ChatGPT, can you tell me what to make that will prompt a moment of connection in a mystical plane between an artist and a viewer? It's time to talk about theory. All the way back in 1936, the critic Walter Benjamin wrote the piece The Work of Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction, which essentially argues that mechanically reproducing art through new technology like photography and video diminishes its aura, which has a whole host of implications on art and artists and politics and the masses. And yes, he does use the word aura. Walter Benjamin, Gen Z king. However, he defines aura not as a vibe, but as art's presence in time and space, its unique existence in the place it happens to be. It's the difference between me sitting in the exhibit for Ocean Without a Shore and thinking about the threshold between life and death, and me showing you log footage of it. Something essential gets lost in translation. When you're having a real art experience, you're not just seeing a final product. You're seeing an idea, you're seeing a process, you're seeing time. To me, the aura is the feeling that something is more than the sum of its parts. And to lose that aura, to replicate something sans everything but what it literally is Marx alert, alienating the artist from the product of their labor, and in turn alienating us from the labor of the artist, which then begets itself in an auraless loop. Benjamin says the work of art reproduced becomes the work of art designed for reproducibility. I reread this piece last year for the first time in a long time because it popped into my mind when I was hearing all the discourse about generative AI. And in many ways, it reads like a prophecy for what the internet has become. There are so many lines where you could replace work of art with content or mechanically reproduced with AI generated, and the point stands exactly. The content reproduced becomes the content designed for reproducibility. AI generated art changes the reaction of the masses towards art. Something human got lost in translation between algorithm and bots and AI that turned art to media and community to data. The internet, frankly, has lost its aura. Now, I think Walter Benjamin would argue that using the internet, the technology itself, causes loss of aura. Like, to post is to mechanically reproduce something from the brain. A photo dump turns a month of human life into something that garners 86 likes. But Walter Benjamin was not involved in the egg trade on Neopets in 2002. He doesn't get it. I think the internet itself had aura. I think it was one of those mystical planes on which people could connect. I think we managed to replicate humanity on it. I think tech companies who didn't understand its aura tried to mechanically reproduce it for profit. destroying in the process everything that made the internet human. And I fear they trained us to do that to ourselves in the process. What the algorithm did to the internet mirrors what generative AI is doing to us. It's making us lose our aura. And not to be dramatic, but I don't think we should let that happen. I will never delete Facebook. Where else could I possibly see my thoughts from 17 years ago? Such as my excitement about getting my first cell phone, the LG Rumor 2, is called Black Mirror because the phone screen is a black mirror. So much of the internet from the 2000s and the 2010s feels lost to time, but Facebook lives on. Lives might be a bit generous. In 2011, Facebook introduced its algorithmic feed. So instead of just seeing pictures from your friends' parties in the order they were posted, you were suddenly seeing the results of a bunch of complex computer decisions about what Facebook thought would keep you on their app for longer. And 14 years later, the result of this is a barren wasteland of slop. A never-ending stream of weird videos that feel designed to do nothing but catch the eye of the machine. My favorite of which is 5-minute crafts. 5-minute crafts videos are like if you wanted to learn how to garden in a way that was extremely weird and bad. The videos are in the familiar style of a cheerful DIY tutorial. They're reminiscent of crafting, but I'm hard-pressed to find one that I could actually craft, let alone in 5 minutes. They're always pouring aluminum, or playing with electricity and power tools, or doing very involved steps that never show up in the final product and are never explained, or are a craft that you would not want to do, even if you could. There are never instructions or a list of materials or a voiceover, just a craft-adjacent abyss. What's my favorite 5-minute crafts video? I'm so glad you asked. It's this one, where an egg is soaked in vinegar, then maple syrup, then dye, so it can become, progressively, bigger than before. If you watch too many of these videos, you become convinced that the people making them are trapped in a content dungeon, trying to communicate with you to help them escape. Or that the whole thing is covert foot fetish content, which the company denies, but is not implausible. My most generous read is that 5-minute crafts is a genius piece of internet performance art. Bigger than before. But the most likely read is that 5-minute crafts is just an artifact of the algorithmic feed. 5-minute crafts videos are not meant to be crafted. They're meant to be watched. That's the thing that is fundamentally aura-less about 5-minute crafts. It's not more than exactly what it is. The weirdness is not an open question. The weirdness is the point. It is weird so that you will watch it. That's it. It's designed to make the machine show it to us. And we tell the machine if we like it, based on how long we watch for. There's no connection between a creator and an audience. The whole thing, in both directions, is mediated by the algorithm. And the algorithm is a wall. An aura-blocking wall. When me or one of my friends posts on Instagram, we will text the group chat and ask for likes. I am not an influencer. I'm 30. I'm too old to be acting like this. And yet, I try to game the machine with a string of initial likes on a post with, I don't know, 15 pictures from the month of April, so that I can end up with marginally more likes from an audience of mostly people that I already know. What's up with that? I think most people would agree that the algorithm has changed how we interact with the internet, but I think more people would say that it's changed how we experience it on the receiving end. It determines what we watch, who we follow, how long we scroll for, but I fear it goes much further than that. As someone who spent a lot of time online growing up, I think back on it as this place of identity formation. Before social media, I wasn't thinking about how I presented myself to the world online. I was interested in discovering things on this seemingly infinite democratic platform where you could find new art or music or people who liked those things in the same way that you did. And by infinite, I mean there weren't like 4 apps that I cycled between, waiting for all of the same posts to eventually show up on all of them. The internet was really big, and I loved unearthing things on it, and coming to understand the world and myself better through it. My experience of the internet these days is still one of identity formation, but it's kind of in the opposite direction now. It's a performance. I've decided what I like and who I am, and now I reproduce a version of myself online for an audience. Mechanically, one could say. In a way that responds to how people respond to this version of me. Who I am online changes based on what the data says. The little dances we do online are a flattening of who we are. Social media is a highlight reel, See, the people who love posting highlight reels. I think we all know that at this point. But I don't think we act like we know that. We treat people's online presence as a real way of knowing them, evidenced by the way that we call offline people mysterious, as though we can't know them fully without their posts to contextualize them. It almost makes me feel indignant. Like, take that account off private. Let me know you. Don't you not feel real? Because I know I don't when I don't post. For some reason, I need a foot in both worlds to feel like I exist, even if the online half is a caricature of the real thing. But herein lies the paradox. If I want to be known, I have to oblige the algorithm. When I oblige the algorithm, when I behave like a bot for attention, my online self loses its aura. Walter Benjamin makes this parallel when he talks about theater actors transitioning to the screen. Again, 1936. He says, "This is the effect of the film. Man has to operate with his whole living person, yet foregoing its aura. For aura is tied to his presence. There can be no replica of it. The feeling of strangeness that overcomes the actor before the camera is basically the same kind of estrangement felt before one's own image in the mirror. But now the reflected image has become separable, transportable. And where is it transported? Before the public." Did Walter Benjamin predict influencers? No one embodies the impact of the algorithm on the aura of the self more than the lifestyle influencer. Someone whose job is mechanically reproducing themselves and their life online in an attempt to get you to reproduce yourself, to be just like them. The algorithm homogenizes us in this loop, posting to please it, following people who please it, buying things that the people who please it post about, so that we can post about them, to please it. And this goes all the way to the bones. The writer Gia Tolentino coined the phrase Instagram face, the gradual emergence among professionally beautiful women of a single cyborgian face. Big eyes, full lips, high cheekbones, thin nose, poreless skin, people getting surgery or injections to look like someone else's face-tuned version of themselves. The work of art reproduced becomes the work of art designed for reproducibility. Or, contextually, the human reproduced becomes the human designed for reproducibility. Use code WALTER for 10% off. Sometimes it feels like the internet has become so aura-less that we are averse to aura when we actually see it. Every influencer who gets big enough seems to go through this cycle. They form their original audience by way of authenticity, being relatable, and in the process, garner lives beyond their audience's wildest dreams.
Hey guys, it's Emma. Today I'm going to be doing a thrift haul.
Emma Chamberlain started making goofy fashion vlogs. Now she's doing campaigns for Louis in Paris.
Every time I'm in Paris, there was like a few things that I must do. I like to thrift shop when I have time here because the thrift shops here are incredible.
Jaclyn Hill was your older sister teaching you how to do makeup in the bathroom.
And then I'm taking soft brown on a really fluffy brush. Soft brown is a matte shade by MAC. And I'm fluffing it up and out towards the outer corner of my eyebrow.
Now she's apologizing for hairy lipsticks in her cavernous bedroom.
I'm not gonna make it about myself in any way and tell you how I feel about this, but it's embarrassing for me to not see you guys fully happy, and I am so sorry that any of you are experiencing anything less than absolute perfection from my first launch.
You kind of want to feel for Jaclyn as you watch her career go up in smoke. Live in front of you, but it's kind of hard to. People will say this is because she is fabulously wealthy and beautiful, which she is, but I think it's because they're looking at a reproduction of Jaclyn. And Jaclyn apologizing with no aura.
We have several people, up to 20 people, working on my lipsticks on the line every single day as they're being produced, and every single one of those people are wearing white gloves that is spreading lint all over the product. Not acceptable at all, and the second we saw this, we changed to different gloves that will not be giving this issue whatsoever.
It is much easier to cheer for the downfall of a caricature than it is to cheer for the downfall of a real person. The YouTuber apology never reads as authentic because it kind of can't be. Even if they are genuinely sorry, they're still apologizing in character, almost as a way of protecting themselves. Because true authenticity, true relatability, true aura shatters the illusion that makes being an influencer possible. There was this YouTuber I used to watch back in the 20-teens named Asina O'Neil. She was an influencer before that was something people really were. Like, we didn't know yet that if she was saying, I like this dress, that she had been perhaps paid to say that. Back in my day, she went viral in 2015 for this tearful video talking about how social media is not real life.
I'm the girl that had it all, and I want to tell you that having it all on social media means absolutely nothing to your real life.
She seemed very troubled by this growing cowering between who she was and who she posted as. Like she wasn't performing, but she was lying.
Everything I did was for views, for likes, for followers. I did shoots for like hours just to get photos for Instagram. I would meet up with people and talk and connect, whatever, but just make photos for Instagram. Like, yes, I could connect with them, but the basis of what we were doing wasn't just love and in nature and getting out there and talking about life. It was social media, which is now a business.
People hated this video. I have a weird soft spot for it, partially because she was 19 and who among us was not over dramatic at 19. But I also think this is like the real aura of Asina O'Neil. It didn't feel like a calculated attempt to grow a following and make a statement to me. It felt like someone trying to let the wall down, which people say they want, but they do not. We've learned to leg the wall. It's uncomfortable when someone breaks it. And influencers really hate when one of them tells on the rest of them. Asina's friends in particular did not care for this video.
The only reason she can spread this message of how social media is so horrible is because of social media.
When she posted it, she also went back and edited the captions on her old Instagram posts that were like, this is what was actually going through my head at the time, whether or not she was paid to post it. But eventually she just deleted her accounts for good. It's been 10 years. She's done a few one-up interviews, but she's never truly logged back on. And I have to wonder if it's because it hurt that people responded negatively to something that was honest. The algorithm, the wall, is protective. Jaclyn Hill's makeup line lasted 4 more years after the hairy lipstick incident.
We all know what happened with my first launch for my brand of Jaclyn Cosmetics when I launched lips. I had to make a choice to either just go away, hide, never come back, let myself slip into a depression, which I did for several months, and I was like, I'm never doing anything lips again. I don't even want to launch anything again. Like, I'm a failure. I had my pity party, and then one day I was like, you know what? No. I have been blessed with this platform and been given millions of followers and a lot of young, impressionable minds of young boys and girls who look up to me. This is me showing you that you need to believe in yourself. Don't give up.
Part of the millennial experience seems to be this shared grief for the internet that used to be. I feel like we all have a memory of a weird forum that we love, or a viral moment that never got milkshake ducked because we weren't doing that yet. Sometimes I find myself looking through the GeoCities archive at all these websites that exist for no reason other than it was cool that you could do it. Sometimes I still think about when I was in high school and I saw the Arab Spring breakout in real time on Tumblr. That shaped what I thought about the internet for a decade to come. That it wasn't just cool, but it could be this tool for liberation if it was harnessed properly. And it was really hard to accept that it wasn't. Another classic part of the millennial experience seems to be posting your way right off your phone until the moment you can't take it anymore. Holding on for dear life that what we have to say matters as our online world keeps getting smaller and smaller. Controlled by increasingly insane billionaires who stopped pretending that our apps were for us to connect upon years ago. It didn't liberate us, let alone connect us. It trapped us. I take my annual social media break. I go back to the staticky place, and I don't post. When I come back, when I try to cross that waterfall threshold and connect again, there's still something intangible in the way. I want to be seen. I want to be known. I want to see. I want to know. I want the internet to still be a portal to the world. But it doesn't work like that anymore. And sometimes I get mad at myself for not realizing what was happening in the process. As I'm writing this, the trend in generative AI is to turn yourself into a doll, a little Barbie box of you and all your little accessories. I asked ChatGPT to make me a powerlifting Barbie, and this is what it gave me. It looks just like me. Every few weeks, there is a new trend like this. Turn yourself into a Miyazaki film. Turn yourself into a piece of fine art. Turn your selfie into a professional headshot. It is end-stage mechanical reproduction, entirely auraless in both the Walter Benjamin way and the Gen Z way. It is somehow art with neither an artist nor a viewer. Like, the response of a viewer of the AI Barbie is to go, I want to generate my own Barbie. There is no dialogue with the end product. There is no artist trying to communicate something. There is only a machine saying, use me. And every time I see AI art, every time I read a post so obviously written by ChatGPT, every time I hear someone say they use ChatGPT to summarize a post also written by ChatGPT, every time I think about an AI written cover letter that's going to go into a stack of other AI written cover letters that's going to be sifted through by AI HR software, I get this horrible sinking feeling in my stomach. It feels like I'm watching what the algorithm did to the internet happen again, but in real life. The aura of real life, the mystical, magical plane in which we live. We have already lost one plane. There's already a dead internet theory that's been floating around for years. Supposedly a conspiracy theory that most internet activity is actually bot activity that feels less and less like a conspiracy the more you look at LinkedIn. We cannot let our real life, the one and only world we have, turn into LinkedIn. No. I want to return to our initial definition of aura, Walter Benjamin's definition of aura. Art's presence in time and space, its unique existence in the place it happens to be. If you were to map that onto humanity, the aura of a person, what would that mean? In this context, I'm thinking about aura as a full embodiment of human life. You, the sum of your parts, and that intangible something else that's like the miracle of your own existence. And I don't mean that in a God way. I mean that like one summer I worked at a science camp and I got to hold a sheep brain in my own two hands. And it was this weirdly meaningful experience to be like, I have one of those. I have a weird mass of tissue and electricity up here and it makes me real. The computer wishes it had an aura so profound, except it doesn't because the computer can't wish. For those of you who did not cry watching Interstellar, I have come to ground us in an equation. Aura equals idea plus time. Girl math. The computer can do many things, but it can't think and it can't have an idea. I had a teacher in school absolutely gag us with this comment that was like, when people take a picture, they think they're taking it so that they can remember something, but what they're really doing is giving themselves permission to forget. Yes, art school is really like this. Hello, Jordan, if you're watching. And I think that idea fits pretty cleanly into our equation here. I hear people say all the time that they're using AI to help them think, to get started writing an email when they're just not sure what to say, to figure out what to eat for dinner with what you already have in the fridge. But I think using AI this way is giving yourself permission to not think, to let it think for you. I read this strange little book called Goblinhood, Goblin as a Mode, while I was writing this. And the writer Jen Kaleha likens AI to a goblin that wants to convince you that you can't write. When the computer writes for us, reads for us, draws for us, thinks for us, or giving life permission to become like the drudgery of the algorithmic feed. Drudgery thought experiment. Imagine two movies, one made by people and one made by AI that is, by chance, completely identical to the one made by people. If you watch them and you know which is which, do you have the same experience watching them both? I don't think you do, because a movie is not just an MP4. Part of the experience of loving the movie Titanic is reading all the crazy shit about how they made the movie Titanic. The story sticks with you, but so does thinking about James Cameron being crazy. The planning, the building of the boat, seeing how the drowning scene was shot on a set and what it looks like all zoomed out. The AI movie in this thought experiment is an MP4 and nothing more. When I hear people talk about using AI in these contexts, I think they're underestimating how sad the end product would be. Think about all the beloved TV shows with horrible endings. People are still talking about the final episodes of Game of Thrones, Seinfeld, The Sopranos, decades after the fact. I got mad about the winner of Project Runway Season 8 from 2010 this week. Mondo should have won. And sure, AI could look at the endings of every narrative throughout history and synthesize the perfect one. But we would probably watch it and feel nothing. To love something is to feel something about it and think something about it, like you're having a conversation with the people who made it, trying to figure out why they did what they did. Aura is that people still have feelings about an hour of TV from 1998.
Haven't we had this conversation before?
You think?
I think we have.
Yeah, maybe we have.
I think one of the truest signifiers of Aura is that it makes you want to make something. The song that made you want to learn how to play guitar and stir that same feeling up with your own hands. The episode of Project Runway that makes you go to Joanne Fabric and try to make your own pair of Sophie shorts at home. The final coupling of characters in a show that makes you so angry that you rewrite it yourself. Or rewrite it to make it weirder and hornier. I'll say it. Fan fiction is an Aura signifier. All right. Let's say you're lamenting right now. You're saying, sure, I don't want to watch AI-generated movies, but is it so wrong to use AI in my day-to-day life to make things easier and faster? Don't make me top the equation. Time is on here for a reason. Look, I love my schedule. I love to find ways to streamline. I love to find more room to do all the things I love to do. I am not a hater of efficiency. So I hear you if that is your moan in my general direction. I do. But to that, I will say, doing things faster and making them easier is not inherently better. Sometimes it is, but there are trade-offs. And I think the biggest one is time. For me, the creative process is equal parts discipline and magic. Discipline is my boring, efficient, scheduled side. When I say, I'm going to work on this piece every day for an hour, whether or not I want to, because it will never come to exist otherwise. Magic is when I finish that formal sit-down hour-long writing session and go for a walk. No headphones, no music, no podcast, let the brain run free. If I was stuck on something in the discipline part, it usually sorts itself out during the magic part. And letting the magic happen takes time. There's kind of no way around it. If you try to get around it, if you are, say, stuck writing something and you feed it to ChatGPT and you say, help me transition between these two ideas, the outcome between what it says and what you may have eventually landed on could be functionally the same thing. But the outcome for you is no magic. It is hard to explain how good it feels to start with a Google Doc that says 5-minute crafts, Walter Benjamin, AI art, because you know those things have something to do with each other. You're just not quite sure exactly what yet. And slowly through trial and error and time, you figure it out. You figure out what the connection is and what you're trying to say and how you want to say it. It feels like magic, and you become a better writer by doing it. I don't know what it feels like to have ChatGPT write something for you, but I can't imagine it feels like much of anything at all. Nor do you ever improve as a writer. You are giving yourself permission to not do it. There's something time does for us that I just think is worth doing sometimes. Where you choose to apply that, where you think the trade-offs are worth it, that's up to you. Suffering without modern conveniences is not in the Aura equation. I love having a dishwasher. When I say time, I mean not giving up on finding meaning in doing things. Not taking yourself out of the equation the second it gets hard. Tending to the sourdough starter of life because it's enriching to bake bread from scratch, even though it's right there at the store. One of the last good places online is Google Maps. I can lose myself for hours in Street View, and I keep a little folder of screenshots from my travels. All unlabeled, as though I expected myself to remember where it was without actually having been there to take it. Permission to forget. Level 10. The whole world blends together in my folder like it's in the wasteland. Dead mountain mouth of carious teeth that cannot spit. Here, one can neither stand, nor lie, nor sit. There is not even silence in the mountains, but dry, sterile thunder without rain. You thought we were also at pretentious level 10, and I hadn't even quoted T.S. Eliot at you yet. The wasteland is very 1920s. Very, I feel despair and disillusionment about the war. Whatever shall we do? Is there even a language tradition to express this feeling? Not really. Let's do some modernist grunting about it. Fair enough. If you've ever wondered why a period of art is weird, the answer is almost always reaction to a war. I remember after the first Trump election that a lot of people said, well, at least the art from this period in time is going to be great. And I've been wondering lately why it hasn't been, when there is such a historical precedent for it to be. When I think about political art from the 20s, the 1920s, I think about artists so deeply disillusioned that they deconstructed the idea of art entirely. You can feel the Dadaists and the Surrealists and the Futurists going, what's the point? Aesthetic revolution it is. When I think of political art from the 2020s, I think infographics. And the message is clear. but the aesthetics feel entirely secondary. Like, why waste time using visuals to get a point across at a time like this? Why prompt a feeling of disillusionment when you can just announce that we should be disillusioned? Everything is exactly what it is. You've seen one, you've seen them all, and you numb out as you tap through them, one after the other, story after story, until you manage to feel nothing about the horrors at all. There is a very cool history of art as a function of activism, not just as an aesthetic reaction to politics, but it is still art in the sense that the way it looks and where it lives in the world is part of the whole. On the surface, the Guerrilla Girls are telling you statistics. But they are doing so in stylistic reference to a protest poster or a political billboard. And they are doing so in a place that will force the institution to acknowledge them, like critiquing a museum's collection as part of their exhibit at that museum. I still remember the first time I saw "Do Women Have to Be Naked to Get into the Met?" because it hit all those notes. It's not detached from its form or its function for the sake of getting a point across. The 2016 to present infographics feel detached from both at this point. They're like disembodied artifacts of general malaise. I guess what I'm saying is that this feeling of detachment, that to me is the worst outcome of everyone using AI. That we're not just alienated from our jobs and our friends and our media, but from our own thoughts and feelings. I fear a world where everything feels like Instagram stories during election week. Everyone trying to emerge from the staticky place to find the right thing to post, the right thing to say. But it all just blends together to the point where it stops feeling real, online or in real life. And I want everything to feel real. I want to have a fully embodied human experience. I want to give myself time to let magic happen instead of looking for the fastest possible way through the wasteland. When I hear AI optimists talk about their vision for the future, where AI can do our jobs for us and our life admin for us, leaving us with infinite free time for other pursuits, many of which can also be done with AI, that to me does not sound like a utopia. That sounds like giving up. It's beyond permission to forget or permission to not think. It is permission to be controlled by the machine in every single aspect of your life. That is not freedom. That utopia sucks ass. There's this misplaced sense of awe at all the things a computer can do and the world that it can create for us, while forgetting all the things that we can do and that the world can be whatever we want it to be. If we take the AI utopia idea and say, okay, what they're really saying is they want, less stressful job, more work-life balance, more meaningful free time. Sure, I want those things too. But the path to liberation is not being paved by Sam Altman. I think if we want to build the world we want, we need to be as in touch with our humanity as much as possible, instead of handing it over out of convenience and hoping that the tech companies steward it wisely. They famously will not do that. So next time you want to ask ChatGPT to write something for you, I want you to remember that the only reason a computer can write is because humans told each other stories for thousands of years until they figured out how to write them down. And then they wrote a lot of them down for thousands more years, long before anyone knew we'd care to read them, almost as a compulsion of being human. The computer can write because you can, but only one of you can do it with Aura. So crank up that AI fireplace if you absolutely must, and write your own goddamn grocery list.